Welcome to Your Healthy Kitchen from YRMC.
Welcome to YRMC's Your Healthy Kitchen. I'm your host, Rita Carey Rubin. Our show today is dedicated to Breast Cancer Awareness Month and to everyone who has ever been affected by breast cancer, either personally or through the experience of friends and family. Statistics show that 1 in 8 women in the U.S. will develop breast cancer in her lifetime. So that's why it's so important to do everything we can to reduce our risk and, in case we are diagnosed with breast cancer, improve our chances of recovery. Great research shows that certain foods have the nutritional power to protect healthy cells, power up immune function, and even kill off some types of cancer. So let's take a look at what the experts recommend and prepare a delicious dish that includes a bunch of cancer-fighting ingredients. So researchers largely agree that the following diet recommendations reduce the risk of breast cancer for most women and men. So first, enjoy a plant-based diet, or one that highlights foods that come from plants and includes smaller portions of meat, poultry, and other animal products. Eat 5 to 7 daily servings of vegetables and 1 to 2 servings of fruit. Enjoy moderate amounts of high-fiber whole grains and beans. Limit your alcohol intake to less than 1 drink per day, or for some women at high risk, maybe foregoing alcohol altogether. And really cut back on those added sugars and sweets. So Mediterranean, vegetarian, or vegan eating style would fit into all of these important cancer-fighting recommendations. So would a pescatarian diet, that's a vegetarian that eats fish, or a flexitarian diet, that's a vegetarian that's mostly vegetarian most of the time, or even a healthy paleo diet would work. So there are some specific foods that demonstrate cancer-fighting abilities, and these are great to include in your diet as often as you can. So broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, radishes, and Brussels sprouts, these are probably the groups of foods that have been studied the most for anti-cancer activity and especially anti-breast cancer activity. Extra virgin olive oil and foods that contain omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, sardines, and plant-based omega-3s in walnuts and flaxseed too. Onions and garlic, there's tons of research on the benefits of those foods for fighting all kinds of cancers. Coffee and green tea as well, and then the fresh herbs and a variety of spices always seem to protect from a variety of diseases, including cancer. So as you can see, the bonus of eating to prevent cancer is that it's also really enjoyable and delicious. So let's get cooking. The dish I want to share with you today is based on a little grain that's called quinoa. And the quinoa is going to be flavored with warm cancer-fighting spices, some olive oil, walnuts, green onions, and just a hint of sweet from fruit. And you can serve this as a side dish, a salad, or if you had some garbanzo beans, as a whole meal. So let's get to it. So like I said, the dish is based on quinoa, which is a little tiny grain. It's actually not even a true grain. It's called a pseudo grain because it comes from a plant that's related to amaranth and spinach, and it's actually not a grass. True grains come from grasses. So quinoa is a little bit lower in carbohydrates than some other grains, but it's real high in protein, healthy fat, packed with B vitamins, fiber, and lots of minerals and phytochemicals. So it's a super nutritious seed that cooks like a grain, and it cooks really quickly in 15 minutes. You'd follow the same process of cooking as you would rice or barley, with one difference, and that is that you really want to rinse the quinoa really well before you cook it. And it actually doesn't hurt to rinse all your grains because they can often have some dust and dirt on them, so it's not bad to rinse them all. But for quinoa, it's important because the seeds contain a chemical that has a little bit of a bitter taste, and not everybody can detect it, but people who can taste bitter really can detect it. So really easy to rinse it off. You can just put the quinoa in a fine mesh sieve like this and put it in the sink, run it under the faucet for a while, maybe stir it around a little bit. That's all you need to do. Or you can put it in a big bowl, put water on top, swirl it around, rinse it off again in the fine mesh sieve, and you're ready to go. Just be careful, use a fine mesh sieve and not a regular colander, or else your quinoa is going to go down the drain because it's really small. Then to cook it, simple. Put the water that you need in a pan and put it to boil. It takes a little less than twice the amount of water as grain. So for this recipe, it takes 1.5 cups of quinoa and 2.5 cups of water. So you put that 2.5 cups of water in your pot, bring it to a boil, throw the quinoa in there, bring it back to a boil, and then turn down the heat, put it on a lid on it, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. And you know the quinoa is done when the water has been mostly absorbed and it's kind of tender, like tender, crispy almost, like al dente. It's got a little bit of texture to it. And let it sit in the pot with the cover on it after it's done cooking, and that will steam it a little bit more, and that actually lightens it up and softens it a little bit. Then when you're ready to use it, take a fork and fluff it up a little bit. And what that will break up the grain, separate the grain, and make it really nice to serve and to eat. So that's it. That's my quinoa. I made this morning, so I think I'm going to put that in this bowl right now. That will make our salad in. And quinoa is really great if you refrigerate it, if you're making a cold salad with it. Unlike other grains, it stays tender when it's cold. So some grains like rice will get a little dry when you refrigerate it. They don't do really well, or pasta doesn't do really well, but quinoa keeps really well in the fridge. So now let's make the dressing. It is a citrus-based dressing. It's based on orange juice and lemon juice. So I've got orange juice here, and I'm going to add some lemon juice as well. And so this is a high vitamin C dressing, and vitamin C helps to protect us by powering up our immune system. It also has been shown that people with higher vitamin C levels in their body actually are more resistant to breast cancer. So a good source of vitamin C is always citrus. I'm going to get the zest off of this orange. And the zest is just that bright orange outer part of the peel that adds a lot of orange flavor. It's like supercharged orange flavor. And I don't want much of the white interior because that's a little bitter. So I'm just gently removing the zest on the orange. Also has a lot of interesting nutrients, healthy oils as well, a little bit of vitamin C. And the juice that's in the jar is juice from an orange about this size. So zest your orange first, and then juice it. Put that in there. And next we're going to do some olive oil. So that's on the list of one of those cancer-preventing foods. It has a chemical called oleic acid, which has been shown to be anti-tumor, particularly for breast cancer, and also anti-inflammatory. And anything that's anti-inflammatory will help you prevent all sorts of diseases, including cancer. So there's a couple tablespoons of olive oil in there. And now I'm going to add some spices. So first, a little black pepper, about 1/8 teaspoon or so. And black pepper doesn't have any specific anti-cancer properties, but it does contain a chemical called piperine, which helps your body absorb all the anti-cancer nutrients and phytochemicals that you get from all the plants that you're eating. So it's a great addition to your meals. A little bit of salt, not much, because there's so much flavor in here, you don't need a lot. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon, about 1/8 teaspoon, I think. You can put more in if you like it a little sweeter. So cinnamon has a neat effect on your blood sugar. It helps you reduce insulin resistance and keep your blood sugars level. And there's a lot of evidence that shows if our blood sugars are more in a normal range, it does reduce our risk of breast cancer. Next spice is some ground coriander, which is the seed that we get from cilantro. And I think I'll put about a teaspoon in. Teaspoon of coriander and a little bit less of that of ground cumin. about half a teaspoon. All spices and herbs have that anti-inflammatory effect, and they also have an antioxidant effect, which really protects cells from becoming cancerous. And that's it. That's our dressing. So I'm just going to shake this up and set it aside. And we'll add that to the quinoa last minute before we serve it. So last is just adding some embellishments to our quinoa. So first I'm going to add some scallions. So onions, like I said, there's amazing research out there on the power of onions and garlic to boost our immune system and protect us from cancer. These are some very beautiful large scallions from Whipstone Farm out in Paulden, and I think I'm just going to use one of these because they are so big. And I'll just thinly slice them, use the greens and the white part. You'll see in a lot of the recipes that I use a lot of green onions and scallions. They actually happen to be some of the most nutritious foods you can find in the grocery store. They're inexpensive. They're there all year round. So maybe even more nutritious than regular onions. So if you like the scallions, use them. Use them a lot. And then I'm going to chop up, I think, a cucumber. And this is a pickling cucumber, so it's got a very, that's a potent onion. This has a very thin skin and really small seeds. And this comes from Blooming Reed Farm out in Paulden. Got it at the farmer's market. So you can see the seeds are really small. So I'm not going to bother to seed this or peel it because the skin is really thin. If you get a cucumber with a thicker skin or a cucumber that's been waxed, peel it first. And you might also, if it's got a lot of big seeds in it, you might also scoop those seeds out. And it'll work better in the in the dish. So this adds some brightness into the flavor and then just a little fun crunch. Also you get some vitamin C from a cucumber. I'm trying to cut things kind of small because that quinoa is so tiny. So I'm thinking about how it's going to feel to eat it, how it's going to fit on a spoon or a fork. Then I'll add some red bell pepper. Super good source of vitamin C, if not more than citrus. It has at least as much as citrus. And this will also add a nice bright color and some crunch. If you can, with bell peppers, buy organic. There's a list that the Environmental Working Group puts out. It's called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And they rate the pesticide residues in just ordinary grocery store produce. And almost, I think on every list, and they've been doing this list a long time, bell peppers show up with real high pesticide levels. So just to protect ourselves from getting extra toxins in your body, for bell peppers, that would definitely be one to try to buy organic if you can. They grow great in our environment too, so maybe grow your own in the backyard. Oh, they smell so good. And then the last couple things we're going to add are first a little bit of sweet from some currants. And currants they're kind of like little raisins. They're not grapes. They come from a totally different plant, but they're just almost taste just like raisins. So if you don't find currants, raisins are fine. So about a quarter cup of currants just adds a nice little sweetness. And some walnuts. So good source of the plant-based omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory, has been shown to reduce your risk of breast cancer. Doesn't that look beautiful? There's some great colors here. And then last, we're just going to top it off with some fresh herbs after I add the dressing. So fresh herbs, I have some cilantro. But you could use some basil, you could use mint. Mint would work really well. Probably those three, basil, cilantro, or mint. You could even do a combination of those three. Now it smells really good with all those warm spices. And that's it. This is a super quick and easy meal. Again, just packed with nutrients, not only to prevent breast cancer, but just to keep you healthy, prevent all sorts of chronic diseases. And that's it. Pretty, huh? So remember, to reduce your risk of breast cancer, fill at least half of your plate at meals with a variety of colorful vegetables, including those cruciferous varieties. Choose high-fiber whole grains. Add beans to your dishes several times a week. Don't go overboard on sweets, alcohol, or animal products. You know, the Breast Care Center at YRMC has tons of information and resources for breast care prevention and treatment. And you can learn more at healthhealinghope.org. Also, check out all of our YRMC's Your Healthy Kitchen videos and recipes, which always contain cancer-fighting ingredients at yrmchealthconnect.org. And you can also follow me on Facebook at YRMC's Your Healthy Kitchen, and you'll see the plant-based, high-fiber meals I make at home, plus get links to my favorite food and gardening destinations on the web. So until next time, eat well and be well, and I'll see you soon.